But the stark fact remained that people with disabilities were still victims of segregation and discrimination, and this was intolerable. And today's legislation brings us closer to that day when no Americans will ever again be deprived of their basic guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
20 years ago, the Americans with Disabilities Act guaranteed every person the right to live, work, and participate fully in the American experience. About 1 in 5 Americans lives with a disability, including many of our friends and neighbors, teachers and co-workers, heroes and leaders. Today, despite great progress that has been made since the ADA passed, there are still large problems and even greater challenges with how society portrays Americans with disabilities. What are these problems? Almost every story in the media involving disabled people focuses on their efforts to overcome their disabilities.
Well, it's incredible what you can do when you put your mind to it. You've heard your mom say that, even when your body might not be up for it. Well, that's the mentality behind a special event in Middlesex County.
This week's People magazine profiles a California teenager who does some remarkable things despite his disability.
We have a profile in courage tonight, a man whose life will be spent in a wheelchair. But he's a man who isn't letting that stop him from living a full and impressive life. In fact, he offered us all a lesson or two. As Kevin Reese found out, the man lives by a new mantra: where there's a wheel, there's a way.
Welcome back, everybody. Tonight, a story of inspiration, courage, and strength. It's about a young man from Ottawa, Kansas, Nick Scott, who had thought he had lost everything, only to realize he still had so much left to gain.
Horrible attack on a woman who would have difficulty fighting back against anyone.
Hampton police said the disabled woman was attacked at a 7-Eleven on North King Street and Rip Rap Road.
The race at one elementary school that really moved us. A little boy so determined to stay in the race, even when it looked like he couldn't make it any further.
A college student here in Texas is pushing himself as far as he can go every day, inspiring others too. He's a sharpshooter who has no use of his arms.
The media tends to assume having a disability is a negative thing. When a person with a disability succeeds, it is generally not seen merely as a success. It is seen as an inspiration, as if they've done something impossible. And this needs to change. It starts with us. We don't need to apologize to the disabled community. We need to give support just like we would any other group of people. After all, that's what they are. In the words of sociologist Tom Shakespeare, the world of politics will never be other than a messy place, no matter how much we think we know and how much experience we garner about it. If the reasons for disability masquerading are political, they cannot be reduced to simple laws, but must be tracked through examples, descriptions, and narratives that establish greater awareness about the everyday existence of people with disabilities, as well as attack the history of their misrepresentation. Shakespeare's thoughts relate to people with disabilities. He believes that advancing knowledge about people with disabilities through simple laws and examples is not enough. As he says, we need to establish greater awareness about everyday existence of people with disabilities, as well as share the history of their misrepresentation. This is how we begin to tear down the socially constructed barrier between the abled and the disabled. Despite all the naysayers who are predicting failures, we are all a part of a tradition of diversity. That tradition makes us who we are as a country. The media plays a critical role in how society's thoughts are molded. Let's push aside the media's assumptions of what disabled people can do and turn these into expectations for what they will do. We need to frame our own opinion and not just obtain the popular opinion. With a renewed vision, we'll have a new way of thinking, but it takes all of us. Together, we can get started. Together, we can move forward. Together, we can demolish the wall of discrimination that lies between the abled and the disabled. Let's be a society that believes everyone can instead of everyone can't.
Because along with the precious privilege of being an American comes a sacred duty to ensure that every other American's rights are also guaranteed. And together, we must remove the physical barriers we have created and the social barriers that we've accepted. For ours will never be a truly prosperous nation until all within it prosper.
Will you fulfill your duty?